Hey folks, welcome to today's Shop Talk. I'm your host Riley Bowman, and today we are talking about dummy rounds for dummies. All right. Yes, welcome everybody. Just gonna give everybody a chance here to pop in before I get too far into it. Today's episode brought to you by Ammo Supply Warehouse. Go give them some love. AmmoSupplyWarehouse.com. Great people, great ammo, great prices, especially if you like to buy in bulk. And I would definitely encourage you to buy in bulk because it's a good way to go. If you take advantage of Ammo Supply Warehouse's 2,000 round bulk packs, you get free shipping. That's a huge value. Sometimes it can cost as much as $50 or $60 just to ship ammunition, depending on your supplier. So using like I said, buying in bulk, buying 2,000 rounds at a time from Ammo Supply Warehouse, a good way to go. Welcome, Jack. Glad you were able to catch us live here today. Hey, Eric and Shayna and Ron, Jim, Casey and Tris and Michael. Hey, guys, let me know, how is the audio today? I'm doing a different setup today. I actually have instead of using the built-in mic on my phone, I've got a little bit fancier mic set up. So hopefully it's working well and coming through okay. All right. Michael says, loading my own. Do they sell components? I don't think Ammo Supply Warehouse sells components. I could be wrong, but I don't think they do. Audio sounds good. Great. Glad to hear that. Next week I might be able to get an actual lav mic on me. Would make it even a little bit better. So, but today I was a little bit rushed getting everything set up, so I just have a little shotgun mic set up. Let's see. Hello, Bobby, and again, Casey. David, nice to have you. Hope you're doing well, David. All right, so again, today we're talking about dummy ammo, okay? And so we're going to talk about some of the different types that are available, okay? We're going to talk about, different brands, and some of the pros and cons of those, okay? And also, more importantly, some things that you might do to use dummy ammo for training, all right? Hello, Andy. Glad the audio is good. Tris, yes, thank you. Everybody, please share today's Shop Talk. Hopefully it's helpful and valuable to somebody out there, particularly as you are beginning, or maybe you're advanced on your personal firearms journey. But there's always more we can learn. All right, I'm learning new stuff every week, all the time. I'm an avid reader, so I read a lot of different content, trying to make sure I keep myself sharp and up to date on the latest and greatest in the firearms and training industry. So, again, talking about dummy ammo, we'll have a special offer for you at towards the end here. Stick around. Want you to be able to take advantage of some special sales we got going on. Alrighty, so first off, let's talk about some of the different, and this is not going to be super comprehensive. I don't have them all here with me, but we'll talk about some of the different dummy ammo rounds, some of the different manufacturers, all right? I don't suppose you can hear the grinding in the shop next door. It's kind of noisy. Sorry about that. Hey, Elkie, good to have you here. Yes, Ammo Supply Warehouse ships to California, Bill. Absolutely they do. In fact, they ship out of their Las Vegas warehouse. Actually, it's in Pahrump, Nevada. And they have a warehouse out east as well. So when you go to their website, it'll have you choose west of the Mississippi or east of the Mississippi. And they will ship from the closest warehouse to you. So you get pretty quick shipping as well, which is a really good deal. All right. So let's talk first about, here's one of the classic dummy rounds that's been around on the market for a long time. And this is the A-Zoom snap cap. Okay, I think that's what they call it. But you see on the bottom here, if it'll focus. Anyway, A-Zoom. This is the 9mm version. Everything I have here for right now today is 9mm. And these are essentially a turned, meaning it's turned on a lathe, I'm guessing, a CNC lathe. These are a turned aluminum. I suppose they could be cast, but they don't look cast. They look like they're turned. This is an aluminum snap cap, an aluminum dummy round, okay? And then they coat it with something. I don't even know what it is. So these have been around a long time. They come with a little, it's not rubber, it's not even silicone. I'm not really sure what this polymer thing in the bottom is, but it replaces the primer and gives your firing pin or striker something to bounce off of. Have a little bit of resistance there so your firing pin is not slamming into the back of the breech face or that sort of thing. Now, I've never personally had any issues with dry firing any of my guns, any of my modern, especially striker-fired guns without snap caps, okay? So that doesn't mean that you couldn't do some damage, particularly if the firearm's an older firearm. Anything made in the modern era, and I'd say anything post-1980, for sure, you're pretty much good to go. I think as far as dry firing your live gun without snap caps or dummy ammunition. Again, I've not had any problems, but your mileage may vary. And I know many other shooters that shoot without snap caps all the time. Do you have any 9mm that are correct weight? Not from what I have here today. I think there are some suppliers on Amazon that sell some that are advertised as being correct weight. I'll be honest, Owen, I don't really get all torn up about having the perfect weight for my dummy ammo. So, I mean, but if that's a big deal to you, I mean, go knock yourself out. Anyway, so Azum been around a long time. I think these are owned by Lyman, which is an even bigger brand than that. I think that's Caldwell, I think, that owns all that stuff. I could be wrong. I can't remember. Anyway, here's what I don't like about these. You see this one here? Again, I'll see if I can get it to focus. Maybe. Anyway, you'll probably see that there's some bright silver coloring there around where the rim of the case would be. And that's wear and tear. Like over time, as this is getting chambered over and over and over again, that rim on these dummy rounds seems like it gets almost like pushed back and deformed slightly. Sometimes over time, I've seen that actually develop a little bit of almost like a ring, and I've even seen that ring like pop off and actually get stuck in the chamber or even in the barrel of your gun. And so ever since I discovered that was a potential issue, I've kind of stopped using these because I didn't ever want to have a situation where I was doing dry fire and it developed a little ring from that aluminum getting pushed back and then break off and get stuck in the gun and not realize it, and then I have a big time problem when I go to actually fire my gun the next time. Okay? So I'm not a big fan of these Azum ones anymore. All right? And this mahogany almost colored whatever coating also seems like it flakes off, and I'll see a lot of debris and a lot of shavings from these left in my gun after dry fire use. So I'm just not as big a fan of these anymore. But that's where I started years ago when I was doing a lot of dry fire work with dummy rounds. Here's one that's one of my favorites. Michael says may need to be crimped or crimped more. There's no crimping involved in these, by the way. I'm assuming if you're replying to that, this is a solid piece of aluminum that's been coated. All right. So there's nothing to do about that. They just don't work as well as I'd like them to as far as that wear and tear. I came across these. These are one of my favorites. These are made by a company called ST Action Pro. Now, these are great. These are some of the best I think out there. They use a real, legit, nickel-plated, so like a defense-type load. So it's a quality casing, okay, for the casing. All right. So they're nice and slick. They chamber really nicely, and then there is a orange polymer plastic bullet, and that actually fills the whole casing. Whatever this is, they press it in there. It actually goes all the way to the bottom and pokes through the primer pocket there. Okay. And so that's pretty cool. They're really solid. They're really durable. And I run these a lot. They work great. Now, if you're really nitpicky about having something in the primer there to cushion your firing pin, then these are not the ones for you. Okay, because they don't do anything for you in that regard. All right. I don't know what purpose this thing serves, but it's actually, you can see it's sort of like it's down in there a little ways, so it doesn't really do much for protecting your firing pin. Again, I've never had any issues with breaking a firing pin or striker or anything like that from dry firing without some sort of snap cap that cushions it. Consider this, guys. There are gunsmiths that have been gunsmithing for a long time, and when they're working on somebody's gun, and whether it's a bolt-action rifle, a revolver, a semi-automatic, a shotgun, doesn't really matter. If they're working on something, particularly the action, they're going to be testing that repeatedly, okay? As they're working on it, trying to dial in a problem or diagnose an issue or test a fix. Over and over and over again, these gunsmiths, I know a number of them, have to dry fire your gun. Sometimes a lot. And a lot of times they don't use snap caps. A lot of times they might not even have the snap cap for your particular gun, for that particular caliber. So I had a conversation once with a gunsmith about this, and he's a good friend of mine, Shane, and I asked him about it. He says, I don't ever use snap caps. It's too much work, or it's too much effort to make sure I have all the different ones available. And gunsmiths have been working on guns like this for decades and decades and decades, and he's never personally had an issue from dry firing a gun. Now, I have heard of situations occurring, but if it does, then it's a relatively cheap thing to fix. Now, especially if you're a gunsmith, right? But anyway, something to consider and kind of keep in mind. Hey, Casey, good to have you, and Jared, glad you guys made it. All right, so far I've showed you the A-Zoom ones, which they've fallen out of favor with me in a big way. The ST Action Pros, these are great, okay? Although they don't protect your firing pin. Now, these ones are ones we actually sell. We don't sell these other ones on our online store. We've tried to work out a deal with ST Action Pro for a number of years, and they just won't really work with us on what we would consider good dealer pricing, allowing us to put them in our store, and be able to actually make a couple of pennies off of them or something. That just has never really materialized. Jared actually says rimfires. Yeah, rimfire's a good point. There are, I would say, some rimfires that are more susceptible to firing pin issues when not using rimfire snap caps. I'll also say that the rimfire snap caps are a lot more disposable. All right, they wear out a lot quicker than the centerfire ones. But I do think you should probably use rimfire snap caps when you're dry firing a rimfire, a 22, for instance, or a 17 HMR. A little bit, some limited dry fire use on a 22 without a snap cap is not likely to really cause any issues, at least immediately. It would be more like doing it hundreds or thousands of times over years. You'd definitely start having some issues with the firing pin or damaging the actual breech face. So anyway, now these ones here are ones we actually do sell in the store. These are made by Newbold, and we really like these a lot. Now, they're made from a little bit different polymer than the ST Action Pros. They're actually slightly soft and slightly flexible. Not a whole lot. You could see. I mean, there's really not a whole lot going on there. It'll bend slightly, but these hold up really nicely. They don't really wear out. These will actually kind of protect things as they're going into the chamber, I suppose. They use a real brass casing. Now, it's not the ST Action, nickel-plated case, but it's still a real case. Okay, so the good thing there, again, is brass is a pretty soft metal. You're not going to really wear out extractors and chambers and stuff like that from repeated use of a real, when you're using a brass casing. Aluminum is also pretty soft, but it is harder than brass. Just kind of an FYI. So anyway, brass casing, polymer bullet, goes all the way into the case there, and then we also get a little, cushioning whatever thing there for your firing pin. All right, and it works pretty well. So anyway, these are great, made by Newbold. We sell these in our store. They're very reasonably priced, and I like using them. David says had his first hiccup since P365 after over 10,000 rounds Had 4 stovepipes and failure to eject out of 100 rounds. So after 10,000 rounds, David, it's probably about time that you consider replacing the extractor. So I don't know what the exact maintenance schedule is for those, but you know, some guns can be as early as 10,000 rounds on extractors. Some are as many as 20,000. So it's good. It's a possibility that your extractor or extractor spring is worn out. So you can send it back to SIG and they'll service it for you, or you can probably order those parts and have it serviced if you'd like. So just a little tip there, David. All right. So that's good to know. And then also your recoil spring on the P365 should be replaced every 2,500 rounds. So if you haven't done that yet, you're actually 4 times the supposed limit. Most guns you want to replace around 5,000 rounds, but the P365 specifies it's every 2,500. All right? So you're not going to break anything necessarily, except unless it was like really prolonged use with the same recoil spring. But it's better for the gun, better for the health of the gun, and probably better for its operation and performance and reliability to replace that recoil spring every 2,500. Cushion for the push-in. I like that. There we go. That's the cushion for the push-in. Nice, Ken. Jared says, my new Bold dummy rounds just showed up in the mail. I just opened them. Cool. Let me show you guys some of what we got. All right. We'll go on a little bit of a field trip, and then we'll do show you some drills with these. Let's see. Here we go. So in stock right now, we have ones for 223. Okay. And we have 9mm. All right. So they come in packs of 5. You can also order them 25 at a time. That'll save you a little bit of money, I think, as well. So that's pretty cool. Now, I realize we only have the 223 and the 9mm. Presently, that's the only calibers that New Bold's made for. They keep promising us that they will make them for 45 and 40 here, hopefully soon. But that hasn't happened quite yet. But hopefully most of you are using 9mm. And then again, for your carbines, the 223 should work pretty well as well. What about green buildup on the spring? I'm not sure what green you're talking about. I like the money kind of green, but I don't know what you're talking about on the spring. Green buildup. James. Let's see. Unfortunately, I don't have 10mm. Yeah, that's one I don't foresee having really anytime soon. Again, we've tried to source some of these others, but they just haven't really worked with us on price. Something we'll continue to work on, but anyway, the 9mm ones and the 223 ones in our store, you can double check our store. It's possible that there's guys, I'm not watching the store like a hawk all the time, and Jacob or Sam are adding products all the time, so it's possible we have other calibers in the store. They're probably from other manufacturers, but any of the dummy round products in our online store, with the exception of the T3MT, which is not really a dummy round, it's actually a malfunction practice round. Any of those dummy rounds in our store, 15% off this week if you use coupon code DUMMY. Pretty easy, DUMMY. Need 7.62s, I agree. That's also supposedly in the works from New Bold. 40 cal. Tris wants 40. Dolores loves 9. You know, guys, like, we're super simple here at concealedcarry.com. I realize a lot of you might like 45 or 40 or some other calibers for your defensive pistols, but pretty much everything here that the team shoots and uses on a regular basis is 9mm or 5.56, 223, right? I honestly, I see no need for me to shoot anything other than 9mm. For kind of high-powered center-fire pistol rounds, because it's the cheapest ammo available. It's crazy cheap right now, actually. That means more practice, more time at the range for less money, and that's pretty hard to compete with, I think. I mean, there's no significant advantage to shooting a 40 over a 9 or a 45 over a 9 or even a 45 over a 40. There just isn't. I've done a lot of studying on the ballistics of pistol rounds for self-defense use. So obviously we're going to make sure we keep the 9mm in stock. We're going to keep the 223s in stock. But we'll try to add those others as we can, all right? Especially as Newbold is able to release those. Let's see. David says, yeah, looking at the spring and extractor, haven't replaced anything on it mechanically. Again, it's probably time for your extractor to be replaced. It's probably why you finally had some issues with your P365. 10,000 rounds, a lot of rounds, dude. You've done a lot of shooting on that thing. Good for you. All right, so let's talk about some drills and things we can do. Good. I'm glad somebody posted from the team. We have snap caps and other calibers. Again, I haven't looked at the store in a while for that particular category. Would using a spent shell work to dry fire? In what way? I mean, like, you're not going to really have success chambering a spent shell. It's going to have a hard time going into the chamber. You might get it to do it occasionally, but there's going to be times where it doesn't want to go in. Frankly, there's times at the range I'll use a spent shell. Okay, so like for loading up rounds in a mag, I'll take a random spent shell. Let me see if I have a spent casing here. I don't know if I do. I don't see any. But there's times I'll take a spent casing and stick it in there randomly in a magazine, and that's about the closest thing I can do to simulate. Sometimes you get lucky, you get like a double feed type malfunction, or you might get like what acts like a stovepipe. So spent casings work pretty well sometimes to simulate malfunctions. And then you can also use the dummy rounds themselves in place of a live round at the range to simulate a failure to fire, which is a good drill to do as well. And we'll do that here in just a minute. All right. I just need to get a hold of a lathe and some polymer rod to make my own. Let's see. If I can order, I can pick up at storefront again. Yeah, David, you're welcome to come pick them up here since you're local. Let's see. Yep, tap racks. Yep, we're going to do that. And what's the highest grain 9 you have shot? I have shot 160 grain 9mm before. Freedom Munitions makes I think they call it the Hush Puppy or something like that. It's a subsonic round. It works really well for suppressors. Not a very common round though. And then Federal HST has the 150 micro, so it's a 150 grain HST bullet, and those are pretty heavy. You know, well, they're 3 grains heavier than 147 grain, which is not a lot, but anyway. All right. And David says, I reload spent shells, no powder, no primer for dummy rounds. Yeah, and I've done that as well before too. I don't know what happened to all those ones I did years ago. And so if you have the know-how and the ability and the equipment to reload, then you could just take some bullets and spent casings and stick them together. You might epoxy them in or something so they don't go anywhere over time. Yeah, and that's a good way to go. And you can get some pretty realistic weight as far as those dummy rounds are concerned. So that's not a bad idea. So anyway, all right, so let's talk about some drills. I have here a P365, okay, with the new Gray Guns grip, which is pretty awesome, I have to say. And then you'll see here I have removed the striker, okay, see that? There is nothing in there that would allow this gun to fire at all. The trigger actually doesn't do anything except move back and forth because there's no striker. So no striker spring, nothing. All right, so we're just going to talk real quick about some drills that you might do. All right, so I've got some dummy rounds loaded into a magazine. All right. So the simplest thing you could do would be to actually just do some dry fire practice and do like a draw to first shot. Okay, a one-shot draw type drill. Okay, so I'm going to put that mag in. Got it all loaded up. Chamber, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and reholster, okay? And I'm going to do this sitting. So I'm going to work today on my draws from a seated position. I've got my target still up on the garage doors there, so I'm going to use those to aim at. Now again, I've removed the striker more for a safety aspect for the purpose of doing this video today. So I'm going to simulate trigger presses, and yeah, we're just going to do a one-shot draw type drill. All right. So assuming I didn't remove the striker, what I would normally do is I would draw, press the trigger, fire it once, and then I would rack it again to reset the striker, right? so that I could go ahead and proceed to do the drill again, okay? Now, since I've removed the striker for, again, because I didn't feel like this was the best place for me to have a live gun, and yeah, like I got guys next door to me here, I got guys over that way, I've got a garage door here to the exterior, so I went ahead and removed the striker just to be completely safe, all right, for the purposes of this video. All right, so let's do a one-shot draw again, all right? Here we go. Okay, and so obviously every time I would run a drill like that, one-shot draw, on a striker-fired gun, I'm only going to get the one trigger press and a click. Then I've got to rack the slide to reset it. Now, if you're a double-action guy or gal, then you'd be able to use that double-action trigger pull every time, and that's cool. That would work. That would work all right too. All right, so that's the most basic of drills where you might use a snap cap, and that's maybe just because you feel like using snap caps, that you want to protect the firing pin or whatever. Like if that's your way of doing things, then like more power to you. I personally feel like we want to be careful doing a lot of dry fire practice where we got to constantly rack the slide to reset it, because that is potentially reinforcing a bad habit, you know, a training scar of drawing the gun, firing once, immediately racking it when we're done, and then reholstering. Can you imagine if you did that thousands of times and you really ingrained that, and then one day you had a fight, a real-life fight where you needed your gun, and you drew it, and you fired it once, and then you immediately proceeded to rack it? Yeah, that's what we call a training scar, because you practiced that very motion so many times that it became second nature. And what's interesting about stress is it sometimes brings things out that are ingrained in the muscle memory that we don't realize are really there, and it comes out at weird times. It is aggravating, Casey, I agree. But it's still something that's okay to do sometimes. And let me tell you, here's a little tip of what you can do to, I think, help somewhat minimize the chances of that sort of issue, okay? And it would be to do this type of drill like this, okay? One-shot draw, again, go, bang, okay? And then I'm just going to hold there like I'm evaluating the target, the threat, okay? So instead of bang and immediately go to rack and reholster, I'm going to go bang and then not do anything, okay? I just caught myself. Bang, and I'm going to hold, okay? And then maybe I'll even simulate that I'm scanning and looking for additional threats, all right? And you could also simulate additional trigger presses just for the heck of it, okay? Draw, bang, 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 and I'm going to hold and evaluate, and then I'm going to go ahead and reset my gun, okay? If you don't think this is something that actually can happen to a person, there is a unjustified shooting that occurred in, I think, Oklahoma City a year or two ago, where a bail bonds person, it was a female bonding agent, okay, so for jail bonds, and she had brought in one of her clients, a guy that's out on bail, that she had put up the money for his bail. That's their business, and he was not meeting the terms of that bail. So of that bond. So she brought him into her office, confronted him, and said, "Look, you violated your bail. The cops are looking for you. I'm going to take you in." Okay, she's got to protect her bail money that she put up for him, right? He didn't want to be arrested by her. He didn't want to be taken back into the jail. So he put up a fight, and she at some point grabbed her gun, shot him as he was trying to escape out the window. I think she shot him twice, and after she shot him, this is all captured on camera, so she pulls her gun out, shoots him as he's escaping, bang, bang, and immediately racks her gun following that, even though it's a semi-automatic and it already, like, you actually see her rack it and a round come out. Kind of strange. So clearly there was some sort of training scar that she had developed. And I sometimes wonder if that was because of dry fire practice, where she was doing draw, shoot, rack, back to the holster, whatever sort of thing, right? So we want to be careful with those sorts of things. Jared says he read about an officer doing the same thing in a gunfight. I don't doubt that. This is something that's happened, I'm sure, many times over the years. So, but again, this is still something that you can do, right? You just gotta try to, I think, either, number one, don't do it so much that it becomes like the only thing you do in dry fire. That would just sort of reinforce that in your muscle memory. Again, there's no such thing as true muscle memory, but that's the common phrase, right? So be careful, and do things like draw and fire, get that click, but hold, scan, that sort of thing, and just do something that introduces some sort of interruption to that process so you don't get in the habit of just draw, click, rack, back to holster. Does that make sense? All right, let's talk about another drill we could do. All right, and I've racked out a couple of rounds now, so I'm going to go ahead and stick a couple more of these in. All right, and I'm going to get a spare mag here loaded up. I've been ejecting stuff all over the place. I'm going to have a heck of a time finding it on the floor now. All these little dummy rounds. All right, so something else we could do. I've already got one in the chamber there. Is I'm going to go ahead and practice a reload. Where's my mag pouch? All right. Because I actually didn't wear a spare mag pouch today. I meant to, but I forgot it at home. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just a simple reload. All right. Now during dry fire, it's sometimes a little bit challenging to work on slide lockback reloads where it's realistic. But what we can still work on is just the simple muscle memory of dropping the mag, grabbing the spare, sticking it in, and we're talking slide lock reloads or a combat reload. That's where you're shooting, okay, and the gun fires and locks back to the rear, and then we've got to put in a fresh mag and get the slide closed so we can get back in the fight. All right, so I've spent most of my defensive dry fire practice training the overhand technique, okay, rather than hitting my slide stop. Because for me, that's been the most reliable method for getting my gun back into the fight. So today, here I've got an empty mag, okay, for simulating a slide lockback reload. All right, so I'm just going to start already out with the gun. I'm going to start from a compressed high ready. I'm going to go ahead and present to the target. I'm going to simulate pressing the trigger and recognizing now my gun is out of ammunition. I'm going to grab my spare mag, and as it's coming out of the pouch, I'm going to hit the mag release, insert it, close the slide, back on target, take a shot. Okay? Now, it's important, this is one of the things I spend some time practicing when I'm doing that particular drill, and that is getting the timing of when I grab this, or of when I hit the mag release on my gun. Okay? Because, let me explain something to you. Imagine you're in a gunfight, and you're shooting, and you run out of rounds, and you go, oh, time for reload, and you have trained to hit this magazine release first thing. Okay? I'm going to catch that in my lap. Okay? And then you go to your pouch or to wherever you carry your spare mag, and you realize, oh, wait, I already reloaded, and now I don't have anything. I'm out. Well, you now also have a completely empty gun. It could be argued that it would be better for you to act as though nothing's wrong, rather than go for a spare mag and go, whoops, and then stand there looking like a dummy. All right? So that's why I like to make sure and get confirmation that I have a spare ready, that it's there, okay? That I'm not going to go to my pouch and realize I have nothing left. All right, so the timing of my reload is I'm going to realize I'm empty, go for my spare, and as it's coming out of the pouch, then I'm hitting the mag release, because then I have confirmation that I have more rounds to go and place this empty mag. If I thought I was doing a reload but realized I didn't have any rounds, I would go ahead and act like I was getting the gun back in the fight while I was trying to get the heck out of there fast, but make it look like I still have rounds, because that looks a lot better in intimidation-wise than going, I'm out. Okay? That face will probably be the screen capture for the thumbnail of this video, and it's going to be awesome. All right? That's why I carry 2 spare mags, says David. Sure, absolutely. Not everybody does. I don't even carry 2 spares all the time. Sometimes. But, it's, you know, it kind of depends on capacity. I like to have minimum 25 rounds, ideally, personally speaking, on my person. So that seems to, for me, that feels about right for everyday civilian carry. As a police officer, I like to have at least 40, but preferably more. I actually started carrying, along with my Glock 17, which held 18, 3 spare 17-round mags. And I don't remember what that gets up to, but that's a few. It's like 60-something rounds, I think. Yeah, 60-something. 63 maybe? I don't remember. It's been a while since I did the math on that. Anyway. All right, so let me demonstrate the timing of that at a little bit faster pace. All right? So again, I'm going to simulate a slide lockback reload or a combat reload. All right? And this is what it would look like at a faster pace, more realistic. I'm not going to go full speed. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing, but watch the timing, okay? Watch for when this mag starts falling out of the gun. Here we go. Bang, I'm out. See that? So this starts falling out as my hand has the spare mag and is beginning to come back up towards the gun. All right, that's the timing that we're looking for. Do I ever carry a backup weapon? Periodically. It's not an everyday thing for me at all, Sean, to be honest. Yeah, that's kind of the way I am too, Jared, as far as a lot of times my spare mags are a higher capacity mag than the one that started in the gun in the first place. It kind of depends on what I'm wearing, what I'm carrying, you know, how much I'm trying to conceal. But a lot of times if I'm carrying a Glock 19, I'll carry a 17-round, you know, backup magazine. You know, the Glock 19's got a 15-round mag in it already. You know, so I'm carrying one that's got another 2 rounds more than a stock 19 mag. So that seems to work pretty well for me. You could also carry, it wouldn't be that hard for me to carry a 21 rounder from Magpul. But yeah, on the P365, so this shirt's a little bit tighter fitting. So today I'm actually carrying it in the 10-round configuration. And I'm a little bit weird because I actually find that it's easier and more comfortable for me to shoot the flat 10-round magazine than the 10-round with the slight pinky extension. I know it sounds weird, but I spent a lot of time with this gun last year, shooting a lot of rounds with it, and I went back and forth between the pinky extension and the flat base plate, and I ended up settling on this feeling the best. It also happens to conceal the best. It's not a big difference between the pinky extension and not, but this does conceal crazy well. It's such a small gun, a very small profile. And then I'll carry the 12-rounder as a backup mag. But there's plenty of times, too, just because I'm wearing a little bit looser fitting shirt or something, I'll carry the 12-round mag and a 12-round backup. Anyway, let's see. Just trying to make sure I'm addressing everybody's questions. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate the reload there and the timing of that one more time. All right, so again, I've got empty mag. I got my spare ready to go. Here we go. All right, so present out. I'm out. And my spare actually got hung up a little bit coming out. That's okay. You just got to solve the problem as fast as you can. Let's talk about another dry fire drill we could do with snap caps. And this one has a lot of value, I think, because this is something that, while it's not a common malfunction necessarily, depending on your gun, it is something that could occur. It's also something that not a lot of people are very good at solving, all right? In fact, police academies understand this fact. The course of fire for the firearms qualification in the state of Colorado for peace officers is so generous on this fact that when you perform the double action clearing drill, they give you like 20 seconds for that drill. All you have to do is fire 1 or 2 shots. And you start with the gun already in double feed, in a double feed situation. And from the start of the beep, you have 20 seconds to clear the double feed, get it fixed, and then fire 1, or I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 rounds at the target. That's a long time. 20 seconds. Most gunfights don't even last 20 seconds. My point is double feeds are, for most people, tricky to solve because they just simply don't practice or even know how to solve it. So this is something you should learn, and you should practice it regularly. I wouldn't spend a ton of practice time on it. I mean, maybe initially, make sure you get to where it's pretty comfortable and you know how to do it well. But then don't, spend even 20% of your dry fire time doing double feeds, because it's not something that doesn't make sense. You're better off working on grip and other trigger press and things like that, making sure that your shooting skills are really solid. Fixing the double feed is just something that you should be familiar with and be able to do pretty well. All right, but we can practice that. How do we set up a double feed? We want to start with an empty gun, no magazine in the gun, nothing in the chamber. Then we're going to take a dummy round, drop it into the chamber. Then, while I'm holding this kind of downward, in a safe direction, of course, I'm going to take my mag with loaded rounds in it. I'm going to insert it in, and you'll see it there, and you'll see the already into the chamber round right there. And then I'm going to ease the slide forward, because this is essentially the situation or the condition that we're going to find our pistol in if we experience a double feed malfunction, okay? So essentially, that round on the top of the magazine is pressing against the rear of the other round, and that's the term double feed. All right? So how do we solve this, and how do we want to practice it? Well, a couple of ways you could do this. I'm going to teach what I think is the simplest method, okay? All right, so we're going to simulate. Oh, nothing happening here. My gun's broken. Now, this could appear to me like a reload, like a slide lock reload, because it kind of looks the same. My slide is back. My trigger is not doing anything. I have a mushy trigger, no clicks or anything, and a slide that's back. As you're shooting, you might not recognize that the slide's actually back. From your perspective, especially under stress, recognizing this, I know it looks funny because I've removed the striker, but recognizing that is not always easy to do, okay? It might look like the gun is actually in battery, but it's not. So when I have a situation where the gun's not functioning like I expect, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tap rack it, because that solves actually a lot of problems. If I have a stovepipe malfunction or a failure to fire, failure to feed, typically a tap rack fixes the problem. So that's what I'm going to do first. Tap rack. Oh, wait. My tap rack didn't solve the problem. I still have a malfunction. So automatically I'm going to program myself to start with the tap rack, and when that doesn't fix it, I'm going to proceed to solve the issue as though it's a double feed, because it probably is. All right? So upon doing tap rack, recognizing that did not fix the issue, you should be able to feel that, because as I pull the slide back and release, I recognize that it doesn't go all the way forward. I can actually feel that and go, oh, that stopped again. So now at this point, I am going to manually lock the slide back. That means pull back the slide and push up the slide lock or slide stop, so that I take the pressure off of that round that's being pushed into the rear of the other one. Okay? Then I'm going to strip the magazine out. Okay? And you could retain this, or you could dump it. It's at your choice. All right? Now, I can actually do this with the magazine in my hand, because my hands are big enough and I've practiced enough times. So now I'm actually going to, instead of an overhand, I'm actually going to rack it with a 2-finger pinch. 3 times. I'm going to rack it 3 times. Then I'm going to reinsert the magazine, rack it to get it round back in the chamber, and I have solved my double feed malfunction. I want to see that at a faster pace. Round in the chamber, magazine in, ease the slide forward, simulate the double feed. Okay, here we go. Something's wrong, tap rack. Okay, lock slide back, strip magazine out, rack 3 times at least, insert magazine back into the gun, chamber we're back into the fight. It's not ultra complicated, but it does take some practice and some getting used to. Okay? So that's how you solve double feed. The final thing that you could do to practice malfunction drills, and this is for me where dummy rounds they make so much sense, is they allow you to simulate malfunctions at home and get some practice on that. All right. So the other thing you can do is to simply practice tap rack drills or stovepipes. We can do it both ways. Okay. So we can just do a bunch of tap racks, press trigger, no bang, press trigger, no bang. And you'll note that whenever I'm tap racking, especially on a malfunction, I'm also turning and flicking my wrist to the side. That's actually a little bit more critical a lot of times on a stovepipe, because sometimes if you just keep the gun like this and rack it, and there's a empty casing or something stuck right here in the ejection port, sometimes it'll not go anywhere, and you'll just still have a double or a stovepipe malfunction. Sometimes you actually cause a double feed too when you're doing this. So I'll show you how this is done facing the camera. Okay, so something's wrong with the gun, tap rack. Now I'm going to simulate a stovepipe for you. Set this up. I'm going to turn the gun sideways, lay around. Normally this would be an empty casing, but I can do it with a dummy round just like that. Okay. I used the last round in that magazine. Here's another one. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to press the trigger, and with a stovepipe, because my gun's out of battery, I'm going to get a mushy trigger. Okay, I'm going to look and go, I've got an issue. Tap rack should solve it. I'll see that again. All right, here we go. Slide forward on a round there. Okay, mushy trigger. I'm going to take a quick look. Immediately, that's kind of what I do. I could go right into a tap rack, recognizing there's a problem, but I almost always end up taking a quick look at the same time, like simultaneously. This is all happening very quickly for me. Okay, so it's a confirmation. I'm going, yep, I see the problem, but I'm already starting to perform the thing that fixes it, if that makes sense. Here we go. So nothing happens, tap rack, all in one fluid motion. I'm looking at it, I'm diagnosing the problem, but I'm already starting that first step. And if that tap rack doesn't fix it, then I'm going to proceed to solve it like a double feed, which I showed you earlier. So anyway, there you go. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about this today. Just double checking you guys. What do I think about the Springfield 40 or so pistol? Springfields they're good guns. They don't have quite the track record of reliability, I think, as the Glocks or SIGs. I think some of the parts in them tend to break down a little bit faster, extractors and different springs and things, than Glocks and SIGs, to be frankly honest. But I think overall they're generally pretty good guns. Anyway, that's all I got for today, because it's probably been plenty long. I wasn't really watching the time. Dummy rounds. They're good to have. They're good to use. They're great for simulating malfunction drills at home. All right, stovepipes, failure to fires, double feeds. They're great just to do various drills and have something going in and out of the chamber and getting used to racking the gun and manipulating the gun. But just don't drill certain things so frequently that you drive it into the subconscious of your brain, and you develop training scars, if that makes sense. So mix it into your training regimen in a nice, balanced fashion, all right? So hopefully that's helpful for you guys. Again, use the coupon code DUMMY, D-U-M-M-Y, on any dummy ammunition, snap caps, whatever you call them, in our online store at concealedcarry.com. Dummy. Coupon code, that'll save you 15% all week long, all right? So with that, we're going to let you go, and hope you all are safe out there, that you spend some time practicing, and that you also look for opportunities to take some good training courses in the near future for you all. In just a couple weeks, I'm going to be training with Dave Spalding up here in northern Colorado, and I'm super excited to take a class finally from somebody that I've admired for a lot of years. And that is, again, Dave Spalding, who was recently on the on Guardian Nation Live show for Guardian Nation members. So anyway, there we go, guys. We will catch you later. See you next time. Tomorrow we'll have our Justified Save stories for the podcast. And on Thursday, we'll actually be interviewing George Harris, who is a well-respected firearms instructor. He used to be Actually, I think he started the Sig Sauer Academy, which is a really great training school. So anyway, we look forward to our interview with George on Thursday. Catch you later, folks.